It's going to be...
All right, we will call the council meeting to order, please.
What?
Everybody stand for the pledge, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, take the roll.
Mayor O'Connor?
Here.
Morissette?
Here.
Wakefield? Here. Knutson? Here. Kennedy?
Here.
Brooke?
Here.
Paul?
Here.
All right, comments and suggestions from citizens present. This is your opportunity to weigh in on, discuss issues that you'd like to bring before the council if they are not on the agenda tonight. For residents only, please, if you have a comment, come up to the microphone, identify yourself and your address, try to keep your comments brief, and try not to repeat other people's comments. Having said that, does anybody have a comment? Yes, sir.
I'm Bob Hanson. I live at 809 3rd Street here in Hudson. And my comment is regarding the action that's being taken on my neighbor's place, Bob Kobylarczyk. So I'm next door neighbor to Bob Kobylarczyk, and his place was declared uninhabitable by the county this past winter. And so there's been actions taken to try and clean the place up. It's been sort of a notorious house that oftentimes we get asked if it's been abandoned. It's in kind of rough shape. So the reason I wanted to come talk to you today was just to talk to you a little bit about being the next door neighbor with Bob, but mostly just about if I was hoping that if this does come before the Common Council at some point, that the city would take decisive action and work together closely with the county to try and resolve this issue, which has been going on for a long time. I've been next door neighbors to Bob for about 12 years, and he's just always struggled to maintain the place, including problems with rodent infestation, which bleed into the neighbors' houses, ours, which we've had to hire exterminators a couple of times to take care of. And then also, I think more egregiously, when we had a problem with a gas leak in his place, that it wasn't taken care of. So if you can imagine the fire department rolling, the Hudson police coming over, banging on the door, saying, Bob, you have a gas leak, and he refuses to answer the door on a Sunday. It doesn't get repaired until a Wednesday. What that feels like to have that lovely aroma of natural gas coming over to your place during that time. In which case, actually, we moved to a hotel because it made us kind of anxious. So if it wasn't for the action of the city staff, in this case David Gray, to mobilize the gas company and get Bob to answer the door, it would have taken even longer to repair. So beyond just having a place that's kind of an eyesore, I think it's way beyond that. It's actually unsafe for the neighbors because of the fact that obviously all of us have responsibility to our neighbors to take care of major problems like gas leaks when they happen, but also rodent infestations that have just been endemic over those years. So my request just is for this council is if this does come before the council, I know the county's already working on it. There's already been an advocate assigned to Bob, and he's been moved into assisted living, which I think is probably the best place for him. If it does come before the council, if you could take decisive action and work closely with the county and the county staff to help resolve this problem, which I think now is the time to resolve it once and for all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Any other comments? Any other comments? Any other comments?
My comments are not about that,
Could
but
identify yourself, please?
my comments are about,
Would you identify yourself, please?
oh, I'm sorry, yes. My name is Coraline Rawson, and I live at 80 Heritage Boulevard, Unit 18, Hudson, Wisconsin. Is that
Okay.
all you need?
Yep, that's good.
Okay. I came to talk a little bit about the food program that's been held down at St. Patrick's Church. It's a program that is...
So, excuse me, is this about Operation Help here tonight?
Excuse me?
Is this about Operation Help?
I don't know. It's about the getting a new building and arranging for it to be more organized
Right,
and open for more people.
That's on the agenda tonight.
Okay, then I'm in the wrong spot, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be back.
All right, Corleen, thank you. Any other comments? Any other comments? Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll close that portion of the agenda. Consent agenda?
Approve the meeting minutes from June 19th, 2023 regular council meeting. Approve claims in the amount of $1,089,137.36. Approve Hudson Hockey Association grand opening 5K and fun run 1K. Approve the G-Force Rally Car Show. Approve the memorial application submitted by Joni Davenport. Approve development plans for an accessory building at 2215 Vine Street, St. Croix Valley Professionals.
I'd like to have that pulled from consent agenda, please.
Okay.
Approve a utility easement agreement for 547 Sunset Lane, Christopher and Janet Hannaford. Approve setting a public hearing date for an ordinance to amend municipal code chapter 255-17.1 through chapter 255-17.10.
And I'd like to have that one also pulled from consent agenda.
Okay.
Approve a letter of engagement with Bolton and Mank for a topographic survey of the 2024 infrastructure improvement projects. And approve consultant selection recommendation from DT 1515 for the 11th Street Safety Improvement Project.
Move to approve.
Second that.
Got a motion and second to approve the consent agenda with the exception of items F and H. Is that correct? Okay, roll call? Oh, I'm sorry, was there a second to that?
Yep.
Okay, roll call?
Morissette?
Yes.
Wakefield?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Rook?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Okay, consent agenda is approved with the exceptions of items F and G. Item F.
I just wanted to announce that I'm recusing myself from this vote. That's my only comment about it.
Move to approve.
Got a motion and second to approve. Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Item H.
The only reason I pulled this from the consent agenda, I know it's setting a public hearing, which of course we're all in favor of public input and receiving at the appropriate time in any zoning processes. But I just thought it would be a good opportunity to hear a little bit more, and I did tip my hand to Mr. Johnson, so he knew that I was going to suggest this tonight, that just fill us in a little bit on where we are in the process. As you recall, boy, it's been about a year, maybe last fall, that we voted to hire some consultants from Cedar Corporation to evaluate and update and improve the language and the user-friendly nature of our code. And so the first part that they addressed, due to current interests and projects that are before the city, was the downtown overlay district. So anyway, if we would just fill us in, and just for the public to know too.
No, I think that's a good summary, Joy, in that we did embark on an entire comprehensive rewrite of our zoning code. The last time the zoning code for the city of Hudson was updated comprehensively like this was circa 1993. The first step in this, or the first process that we're going through, is looking at our downtown overlay district. That section of code was actually worked through in 2006 and I think adopted in 2007. There is a lot of complicated, difficult to administer type language in that code. So the intent isn't to make the code easier for someone to get something done, but easier for somebody to interpret, easier for somebody to work through, try to understand, okay, this is what the city's looking for. Here's the clear process that we would look to go through. And I think it'll be good to have a public hearing on this, to kind of work through kind of the last bits and pieces of it. I would encourage everybody in the public and the council and the plan commission, any interested party to review the draft code language that's in there. It includes a red line version that shows everything that would be struck out, and in addition, everything that would be added. So with this item, I think that we're requesting a public hearing date of August 21st. Yep, August 21st. So anybody interested in downtown specifically, this is the first step, and I would encourage them to participate. The nice thing about doing downtown first is we'll get a little bit of time while we work on the rest of the code to have a little trial period. I don't want to say trial, but we'll stress test the downtown, the new downtown code as we're rewriting the rest of the code. And if we have to come back at the end of the overall code rewrite, we can, tweak it additionally if we need to.
So is it correct that the Plan Commission, after discussion and several reports from our consultant, has approved where it stands right now, of what's in front of us?
They have not
today?
approved the language for it. They've approved setting a public hearing
Okay,
for it. So
got
there's
it.
going to be additional.
So they're asking us to set the public hearing, that's
Correct.
our authority. Okay, thank you. So it is good to just, again, air this out. There were several community meetings held. Notification was sent out as usual to kind of that region, which would be more of the downtown businesses and residents. And there was a survey that people could link to on the community development page, but this is another opportunity for residents to come forward and express their ideas, concerns, suggestions. Also just get more information, certainly looking at the River Channel recordings from some recent Plan Commission meetings give you a good assessment too of that. So again, I just thought we should discuss that or bring it to the public. So that was my only reason for removing it from consent agenda.
Move to approve.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second to approve, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Second reading and approval of ordinance 10-23 for a zoning map amendment application from I-1 Light Industrial to B4 Central Business at 727 Second Street, Operation Help.
Move to approve.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second to approve, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Conditional use permit application to operate a multi-use office storage and service space at 727 Second Street, Operation Help.
I don't know that we need to, I think everyone's familiar with this project and kind of everything it entails. In your packet is obviously the Operation Help Under One Roof fact sheet dated February 12th of 2023. I know the applicants are here to answer any questions. Staff here can answer questions as well. Plan Commission did recommend approval of the conditional use permit. They approved everything and removed the second bullet point from what staff's recommendation was, which was to not allow food distribution at that site. So Plan Commission did remove that, approved it 5-1 to include, which would include then the food distribution component. You will also see in your issue sheet that staff has a couple additional conditions if the council is desirous of approving this permit, and that would be that all the operations would abide by the background and fact sheet provided by the applicant that I referenced earlier. And then again, no walk-in food distribution without an appointment. So with that, I can answer any questions, or if there's any questions for the applicant.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval with all 8 items that have been recommended by staff. And then I will explain why.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second to approve, discussion?
I truly believe that the staff comments were right on the head of the nail when it comes to the intensity of the use and the food distribution of what could happen as the program is successful. I want to acknowledge that I support 110% that what they do is important for our community, but I also strongly believe that it is not the right spot for it. Because I think it's going to be that much in need, I think there's a better place for it. In food distribution, it's so confusing the way it happened and the way it was discussed leading up. I've been here for a long time and I've never seen an item take so long to go through the approval process. So to me, that's a big red flag. Something's amiss. But in the staff comments, regarding the intensity of the proposed use explicitly with regard to the functionality of both parking and the accessibility to the premise, the building itself does not provide enough parking as required by our current code. And nor does it adequately accommodate frequent egress or ingress or traffic buildup in any way in that parking lot. With a proposed scheduling system for pickups throughout the day for various nonprofit programs in one building, this would not alleviate the concerns of the staff. That's one point. Further, with such a land use requiring many vehicle trips, this would not reflect the nature of a true B4 central business district by zoning standards, as the zoning type is meant to serve as a transitional barrier. So a transitional barrier from light industrial to the neighborhood between residential commercial uses. Limiting potential use to far less vehicular traffic than what the applicant is proposing. And these concerns have been communicated over and over and over. And I just don't think it's been addressed properly, nor can that particular piece of land accommodate what I think will most likely happen in the future to that.
I'd like to speak to,
Oh, can I clarify one thing on your motion?
Yeah.
So,
Approving
Sorry.
all 8 items.
so we have two different things. So we have 8 items, if you count the 1 through 6, and then that 1, 2 additional on the staff one. But then if you look at the planning commission
Yeah, I'm sorry.
recommendation, that's where we actually had
It's
the
adding
8.
back to no
So
food.
basically, I think what you're saying is that in the council packet, we have the 1 through 6 items.
Yeah.
And you'd like to add back that number 2 from the planning commission, which says that Hudson backpack and food programs not provide food distribution services on the property within the building, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then the all operations shall abide, is that the other one that is new, this one?
Though, just the last two, yeah, the 1 and 2.
Well, no, but not 2, because we're saying no.
Yeah, correct.
So, okay, and then the other one is that number 1, which is in the packet, that's, they shall abide by their
So
proposal.
my number list is wrong.
Yeah, so basically, if you're using the one from the planning commission, it is all the same, really, except, like I
Adding
said.
back number 2.
Yep.
Number 2, and then adding the additional number 1.
So basically, let's keep it simple. If you look at what's in your packet, the 1 through 6 is what Randy's recommending approval, and then also the number 1 from the staff recommendation. But the new addition, which is different from this one, would be the one I just read, which was from the planning commission packet. And that says that Hudson backpack and food programs not provide food distribution services on the property within the building.
Can I please rescind my second, because I misunderstood what
I was wondering about
Councilmember
that.
Morissette was,
Thanks for clarifying.
yeah, thank
So
you
I
for
wanna
getting
make-
that clarification.
I just know we had 2 kind of 8s floating
Thank
around
you.
there.
I
so-
appreciate
So I
that.
think with that, then, we do have that motion from Councilmember Morissette that still does require a second, then, now that we have clarification.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion second. Does everybody understand where we're at? Okay?
Okay, so there would be no food distribution whatsoever at that site.
Correct. We'd be using that, that recommendation that was in the planning commission packet, but that was not approved by the planning commission.
so we would be taking what the planning commission approved and saying it's not taking their
Recommendation.
That's what the motion is.
recommendation.
Yes.
As far as the food distribution goes, I feel like there's, I don't think we have the right to say what we think might happen. I don't know that that's an appropriate role for us to take. They're asking for a conditional use permit, and I believe they have the right, with the recommendation from the planning commission, to make that work. And if they don't, then we address that. But I don't think we can make decisions on what we personally believe might happen. And then as far as food distribution and food drive-through, I think those terms are used so interchangeably, and that's very different. It's a very different look from like the Cornerstone or St. Pat's or any of the other pop-up food distribution. While the word distribution means, to give, those are appointment-based that this program will be addressing. 12 an hour, 12. And so with that, yes, food will be distributed, but it's not going to be a lineup of cars where people are coming through and a backup.
I hear what you're saying and appreciate what you have shared. And I also want to point out the 12 is doubling what they are doing at the present moment, which is roughly 6 an hour. So they have projected, if there's growth, that would be the maximum. And I just want us to remember that the role of government is to make sure that we're providing a community that people want to live in, and we're about service to our community. And our friends at Operation Help and the Hudson Backpack has heard every single concern, has done everything within their power to address their concerns. And we do have the conditional use permit. If it is not working, we have the ability to go back and say, this isn't working for us. And we have every reason to believe that they will do everything within their power to make it work. I'm Councilmember Wakefield, I'm with you. I think this would be a real asset to our community. We just read in the Hudson Star Observer that 8%, roughly 8% of our population from the Census Bureau is defined as poverty level. The need is there. It's a good location. I don't think the intensity of use would be overpowering.
What I was going to say, Randy, excuse me. So I understand where the Planning Commission ended with this, but the Planning Commission also kind of rose above and defeated the staff recommendations as far as how they felt. So, none of us have a crystal ball to see what the future holds. But again, I always go back to when the staff recommends something, they don't flip a coin. This is a lot of research and did a lot of work to that. And I also think that there's some, because of the, their job 24/7 basically, they've seen buildings like this or I guess plans like this. And I know we have, like you had mentioned, we're going to be able to have a conditional use permit, and we can always pull that back. Can we? Can the six of us really do that in a year, 2 years, after millions of dollars have been invested? I think this is one of those where, do we just wait and hope and cross our fingers, or do we kind of do our job and say, there's still some holes in this? I just got an email today stating that, and I know there's a FAQ sheet out there, and I've read it a million times, but someone just sent me an email saying that the plan is they still strongly desire to do walk-in and drive-up service for food distribution. So I know we've talked forever about that the supporters may not know the whole story or whatever, but it's still churning. And like Randy said, there's something that's just not all the cylinders are clicking for this. And besides, we just voted to bring this into B4, and then the very next thing is, let's go against what B4 has or allows, which is a grocery, a food type thing. I know that there's no cost to it, but it's still a grocery. So I'm feeling that there's still, again, not everything is tumbled into place, and there's still a square peg round hole feeling on this one. I don't think we're there yet.
Could I ask a question about grocery and the terminology for this new zoning district? I know bars and taverns and so on, any retail is prohibited, or I'm looking at the expert here, sorry.
Grocery is not a permitted use, but this
Grocery
is
is
not grocery.
It's not your classic grocery, right? Food is being handled though, but it's a good point. My concern, in my short tenure on the council, I have already witnessed several difficult situations with conditional use permits. One of which was issued decades ago, and the local residents who said, sure, that's no problem at the time, within a couple years wanted it rescinded, and it never was rescinded. So they are pretty serious undertaking. It is not something to do casually. They that conditional use permit passes on with the property, not just with the current owner. And so it isn't something to undertake lightly. I have witnessed a similar situation where a new owner of a business isn't really abiding to the arrangements that the longtime residents, business owners had done. And again, this is just in my short time that I've really come to respect that this is a serious decision that we're making. One of the things, and I appreciate, first of all, I want to give thanks to the staff for all the hard work they've done. The Plan Commission has worked hard on this, lots of discussions, and really appreciate the input from the people from Operation Help and the Hudson Backpack Program. I've had many in-depth conversations, phone calls, we've all received emails, and I have engaged with a number of people about it. One of my concerns that I don't think, again, the Plan Commission gets presented with a pretty big project, and sometimes we zero in and focus, they might zero in and focus on a certain area. One of my concerns is the potential unknown for the tenants that might be subletters there. First of all, I applaud the idea, I call it a nonprofit incubator. The idea that, other small groups might have an office space and get some energy from being around each other and get more recognition in the community by having that office space. You see that little business incubators where people can rent a small office where they can occasionally meet a client. So it's a great concept. I really like that, but it does raise that question because, again, we've had so much interaction with these applicants. We won't have that same level of interaction that I can tell. I don't know, do we have the right to stipulate some of the things, for example, the hours of operation? Can we stipulate that on the other tenants that might come into the building? Because a lot of nonprofits, of course, are run by volunteers who maybe have a full-time job, so they might be wanting to meet in the evenings, and maybe they're having more of their get-togethers or planning sessions run late at night. And then, that departure later at night wouldn't fit with what we've specified here. So that was just an area that came up, kind of like what you said, Mike. While it has had a tremendous amount of discussion, this is our first chance to, and I do think we owe it our due diligence. I would say, and I have spoken about this to the leaders of both groups, is unfortunately, I think a lot of this excitement and the fundraising was building for this location and the fundraising long before they approached the city for permission and for zoning approval and so on. If you look back as far as spring of 2022, Operation Help's newsletter, it's linked on their website, shows the artistic drawing, the artist rendering of this building. It says Operation Help on the side of it. They're excited, they're fundraising, that's a goal. I know it feels like it's drug out a long time, and I know volunteers, we get some sense of frustration when people write to us about it, but I don't think that they approached, the city about zoning and some of those issues as early as they could have. Again, I realize they're busy serving their mission and then the fundraising on top of it, but I think there could have been some areas addressed sooner if that had happened, but anyway.
Can I ask a question on the conditional use permit? You're saying it's forever? I thought they were renewed, conditional use permits were renewed.
No, it runs with the land. It is forever. The Plan Commission and Council can pull and review a conditional use permit whenever they see fit. Sometimes we do it on a schedule for if we have something that we want to look at and think, okay, we should probably make sure we,
So we can address concerns if it's not met at the council?
Yes, you can absolutely review it again in the future.
And so that you're absolutely right, Lynn, and I think that was some of the discussion the Plan Commission had, is should we do it in 2 years or should we do it in 1 year? How long? And again, in my short tenure, I've witnessed the Plan Commission bring folks back for a review and then say, well, you're good, now you don't have to come back again. So it is hard, I think it's hard to reel it back in, and certainly when a group of hardworking volunteers and nonprofit donations, all of the funding, can you imagine what the impact that would feel, for us to say, this isn't working, you can't use this building when they have put in a lot of money. So that's why this hard work has to happen leading into it.
And I just don't want to judge a group based upon another group's actions or another situation. I want to give opportunity for those who have answered questions and come before the planning commission and the zoning commission over and over, and they've answered the concerns. I just don't want to make a decision on, well, what if?
And not only answered it, I mean, they've addressed it and have come up with solutions and commitments repeatedly. And I'm sure we all know that we wish things had gone a little bit differently in the beginning, but they certainly have done everything on their part to address what has been raised. And I agree. I mean, we absolutely, what other times do we sit here and think, well, what's going to happen in 5 years? It feels like we got to make sure we keep the playing field level as we're making these decisions.
I understand what you two have, Lynn, and you, Sarah, have said. But at the same time, I received the same email that Mike got received about them doing distribution and food of sorts. And out throughout the whole project, there's been miscommunication between even board members of what that looks like. And I got the fact sheet, and I've read it, and I've heard it, and I've seen and listened to them. And there's still people, like today, this email came today. It says food and distribution.
I think we probably have all lived that same thing here, right? We know what's happened here, but it gets changed out there. And, I think
But that's the other side of the coin that you two are arguing. There's other disinformation out there. So what's what?
Are you done, Randy?
Yep.
Okay. There were some good points that were made at the Plan Commission, and some of it's been reiterated here, but first of all, everyone supports the goals and the missions of the applicants. There's no question about that at all. The other thing that was said at the Plan Commission, and I think this was you, Rich, we have to do the conditional use permit right the first time. We cannot give one and then pull it later at a later date, and that was something that you said as well, Lynn, or Joy, I'm sorry. Anyway, that after the applicant has spent a lot of money remodeling the building. Picture yourself 5 years from now having complaints about this and having somebody recommend that we pull the conditional use permit for that building. Do you want to pull that conditional use permit? I wouldn't want to be in that position. So we have to carefully assess the future needs and how they may affect the building as well as the neighborhood. Randy brought up public safety at the Plan Commission meeting. We have public safety should be one of our foremost considerations. We have the responsibility to protect residents and visitors. We need to assess the probability of accidents at that site. There's no room to put a sidewalk in. The street is narrow and steep. What are the risks? That has not been addressed. So I would like to ask Randy to give us some more information about your concerns about the safety.
Well, like the staff has said, the egress and in and out is just not going to be feasible. You got employees, you got parking, which more than likely is going to change when you have more than 12 people coming. Mm-hmm. I mean, for now, that's their business model, 12 people within how many hours. But in and out of there, the winter, that I grew up 2 blocks from that facility. I've seen cars stuck, slipping, not to mention the backup from the light on Vine Street to Second to the north. Yeah, has it been a problem with Norlake? There was only so many people there with it, but they have their problems in the winter, especially the winter, with safety coming in and out of that back entrance and the hill and the loading zone, and there's no sidewalk for safety. There's just issues with that site when there are other sites that are probably more available and safe. Now, I don't know if I addressed that enough to you, but
No, that,
So that building wouldn't be used for any other purpose then, because those same conditions would be an issue for any business or office that would use that business. So then they would have the same issues. So that would be a no for them as well.
But mind you, I'm in favor of the motion, but I'm including that there's no food distribution to it. All the rest of the nonprofits, feel free, that's great. But the intensity that's the big sticking point. And no one has clearly defined that.
One of the issues is also, it is quite a big building. There's a plan for remodeling, and, it's kind of a guesstimate at this point of how many other nonprofits might wish to use the building or rent it. But if it was zoned differently, and I mean, this is hypothetical, but if it was zoned as an office, for example, because they have enough space for a lot of offices, more parking would be required. So by putting it in this particular category, the B4 district, they have gotten a 50% reduction in the requirement for parking. Am I misspeaking that? So that does alleviate some of the pressure of what they need, and I know they're well aware of that as they're applying, but we are, again, it could be utilized as almost an office building, and what say would we have in it at that point? How many people might be interested in using it? Or perhaps economy is difficult and that becomes a fundraising source. Right now, they're very generous donors to help them purchase it. So, I mean, these are all just factors, again, that might play into the intensity of use. How many people are in there? What hours are they? And what control over that do we have? Do we have the ability to control the hours of any subtenants or other renters that might engage there? So
They're going to review, the Plan Commission was going to review, it says in 1 year, and then the subsequent following year for a total of 5 years. I think that gives adequate time to prove they either can or they cannot. Not for us to say, well, I think they're not going to.
But if it came down to having to pull that permit, how would you vote?
I would want to hear the information. I would not want to base my decision right now on what I think might happen. I think clearly the groups involved in this are aware of the potential consequences. It's in writing.
It's funny that you say what I think, but
No,
it's actually staff recommendation.
Well, it was also plan recommendation that there be a food distribution, so.
And you did watch that meeting, correct?
I did.
Okay.
I have another question. So Norlake is using that building right now. Do you know how many employees are using it at this time?
7.
Oh, there aren't that many using it, even though there's plenty of room for more employees up there. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Everybody ready to vote? All right, we have a motion and a second. Everybody understand it?
I'd like you to read it again, please, or at least the outline of it.
Sure. So if you look in your packet, you have items 1 through 6. So it includes item 1 through 6 under recommended actions on page 91 of the packet. It also includes item 1 under staff recommendation. And then after that, it does not include the item 2 under staff recommendation. What it does include is the condition that Hudson Backpack and Food Programs not provide food distribution services on the property or within the building. So there would be a total of 8, and that would be your 8.
But basically, the motion is that we go back to the basic core recommendation from our staff, which is no food distribution.
Correct.
Okay, thank
Correct.
you.
The motion is to approve the conditional use permit application with the exception of food distribution services. That will not be permitted under the conditional use permit.
Okay, everybody got it?
And to abide by the fact sheet for all the other items.
All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
Motion's approved. Approval of St. Croix River Wharf Project bid by Lunda Construction Company for $1,206,250.
I provided a little bit additional information from the contractor this morning, which I think gives the council a better idea of what the actual wharf portions of the project will look like. Basically, if you remember, we approved moving forward to go out to bids for the boat launch project first, and then this project. So we waited for some of the financing on the boat launch projects. We actually wanted to see how this project came in with bids, all those sort of things. But, so this project came in under what the engineer's estimate was. I note that we do have state grant funds that we will be using towards this project. So what staff recommendation is to approve the bid and approve the financing that basically uses $1,167,617 in TID 6 revenue, and then the additional $394,204 of DNR state grant. And then the big thing to note with that is that as of today, even with this, we still have over $9 million in TID 6 revenue that will be available for other projects in the downtown area. Now that amount can go up if we approve other projects. So this is based on what we have right now. So if the council approves other downtown projects, things like that, that would raise the value, we would actually have more TID revenue available to use for other projects.
I was kind of confused on the timeline, that they're starting this October?
So they are gonna, so we had two optional timelines in there, and we're gonna go with the quicker one, just to get things up and running and in and all those sort of things. And it doesn't affect the cost or anything like that, so. So besides the wharf, we're doing handicap accessibility work on each of the ends. We're, kind of shoring some other things up that you see down there that you can tell need some work, things like that. So it'll be a very,
And just a
thorough
little-
project.
Just a little history, I think we created in part this TID district for this enhancement, along with other improvements downtown district, correct?
Yes.
Waterfront vision study from 2017-18.
Yep, which is what we tried to connect in there. So if a council approves this, we would probably move on next to looking at the next items in that visioning project for downtown as well, and start bringing some more proposals forward then to start addressing other items that are in there. But yes, that was the ultimate goal of this TID, was to try to implement that very ambitious, but I think, very accomplishable study.
So is it correct and thank you for providing that original study, because I enjoyed looking at that. Am I correct that the phrase transient dock was used by that consultant?
It was.
And now we're calling it a wharf because that's what DNR calls it?
That's what they call it.
Okay.
We're sticking with what they want us to call it.
And so could you describe to me, I'm looking at that on whatever page we are on here, the multicolored drawings. Where would the boats, would we have a specified area for just fishing and no boat could pull
Yep, so
up
there's gonna
there?
be bump outs.
Okay.
So basically what happens is, I know it's not a perfect plan.
This diagram,
But, we will have, not only the wharf parts will have where you can tie up, but there's actually gonna be designated bump outs, which are handicap accessible as well, for fishing. That'll be located, I believe, in each end and one in the middle.
Okay.
So there'll be multiple fishing spots available that won't be able to be used by boats.
I don't want any boats cutting any fishing lines or anything, right? Can't have that.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve the wharf project bid by Lunda Construction.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? One thing I wanted to add, I may have missed it, Aaron, but if you had said it, there's a $400,000 grant that was
Yep.
provided by the
Yep.
DNR for this as well.
Yep, that's right.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Resolution 19-23 related to North Hudson wastewater services. Kip?
Good evening, everybody. Kip Peters, Utility Director.
Can I pause for a minute? I want you all to see the tie he's got.
And the shirt.
Like I said, I couldn't let Public Works show me up. I seen he had a tie on today, so I went home and changed. So here I am. So on November 21st, 2022, the Hudson City Council approved Resolution 26-22, terminating the existing wastewater agreement and the interceptor agreement with the Village of North Hudson. Resolution 19-23 and Ordinance 9-23, which is next on the agenda, are the next steps in establishing new rules for treatment of wastewater and different classifications of users. Resolution 19-23 is pertaining to the sewer rate study that is mentioned as part of Ordinance 9-23 and will be used for future billing of all customers utilizing the wastewater treatment facility. We do have with us via Zoom, I believe Eric is with us. I don't know if Christine is with us. Okay, so they're both with us from Trilogy. I'm going to kind of turn it over to them, and they will walk you through the study that's included in your packet. With the different rate classifications and kind of what, they'll tell you about what's in that packet and what we're looking for approval on, so.
I have, if I can share my screen, if you can enable that, I was going to just show the summary of the proposed rates.
Well, let's figure this out now. It's got to be around here somewhere.
Share screen, right here.
Oh, there we go. Try it.
All right.
Nope, not me. You try now. I don't want to share my screen.
So maybe under settings.
All right. Now I have to find it. 1 second. I think it's a little, okay, there we go. I think I did what I need to do now. All right. Okay, that should work now. All right.
Yep, that works.
Okay, great. Yeah, so this is page 26 in the rate study, and this shows what the current rates are for your different classes of customers and what they would be if you adopt the resolution that is in front of you this evening. So I want to walk through these real quickly and then just talk a little bit about how this would work with the new rates for North Hudson. So we're not proposing any change in the quarterly fixed charge that all of your customers pay right now based on their water meter size. So that would remain the same. Scrolling down a little bit through this, then we're not proposing any change in the volumetric rate for domestic strength customers within the city of Hudson. So that would stay at the $4.25 per 100 cubic feet. The proposed wholesale rate for North Hudson would be $5.20 per 100 cubic feet. And then they would also pay a single meter charge based on the size of their meter, which I believe is going to be a 4-inch meter. So that would be their quarterly fixed charge at the $189.20, instead of all of their individual homes and businesses paying meter charges. Right now, there'd be 1 meter charge for the whole village. And I'll get into the rationale behind that in a moment. We are proposing a little bit of an increase in the rates for landfill leachate. This is not a big dollar impact on your budget by any means, but that's what that is. And then you don't currently have any high strength industries, but we have a scheduled rates for those in the event that you were to have something come along at some point. So that's the proposed rates. In terms of how this would work for North Hudson, this is based on having one bill that would go to the village itself, one bill each quarter, instead of sending out bills to all of their property owners within the village. And then that bill would be based on all of the wastewater flowing through a master meter that captures all of the wastewater coming out of the village. And so that would be water coming out of the homes and businesses, as well as any water that's leaking into their sewer collection system. The village under this model would be responsible for maintaining their own system and billing their own customers, and that would be up to them whether they want to hire someone to do that or contract for those services. In terms of what we've built into this $5.20 rate, that includes a share of your operation and maintenance cost for the wastewater treatment plant and for your larger diameter interceptor sewers. So they'd be paying for a share of sewers that are 10 inches and larger and not paying for any of the smaller collector sewers. So they would share in the O&M for the larger sewers only. They would also be paying depreciation expense, again, for the wastewater treatment plant and for the interceptor sewers. And then a 6% rate of return on the amount of investment that the city has in your wastewater treatment plant and interceptor sewers. And this is a standard method that the Wisconsin Public Service Commission uses in establishing rates for water utilities. So it's based on operation and maintenance, depreciation, and then a return on that investment in your assets.
Right now, the standard PSC rate of return for water utilities is 6.2%. So we've set that close to, but a little bit lower than what they allow water utilities to collect. We did assume a little bit of a decrease in your operation and maintenance expenses since you would not be providing retail services to North Hudson and not maintaining the lift station. So the savings might be a little bit more than projected. We tried to stay conservative on that, but we did take a look at it. The other part of the study that we did look at was looking out into the future with increasing costs from West Central Biosolids facility, what you might be looking at in terms of rate increases to address those increasing costs. We're looking at modest rate increases, maybe 2 or 3 over the next 10 years for each phase of that project. Right now we're looking at about a 3 to 5% kind of range of what those might look like. But the utility is in good shape financially in terms of reserves and debt coverage. But as your O&M expenses increase and potentially debt associated with West Central Biosolids, you need to keep an eye on whether or not you're generating enough revenue to provide debt coverage for your clean water fund loan. But we don't anticipate those to be huge rate increases going forward. So that's kind of the highlights of what I wanted to talk about tonight, and happy to take any questions you may have at this point.
I have one, maybe I didn't catch it, but is the lift station, is that our problem?
The Riverside Drive lift station is not ours.
Okay.
As of January 1st, when the wholesale all becomes effective, that will be the village's.
Okay, and then
Maintain,
their responsibility to bill out to their residents then?
correct,
Okay.
yes.
Anybody else? Questions? Motion?
Move to approve Resolution 19-23.
A second.
You have a motion and a second to approve resolution. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Ordinance 9-23 related to North Hudson wastewater services.
So again, on November 21st, 2022, Hudson City Council approved Resolution 26-22 terminating the existing wastewater agreement and interceptor agreement with the Village of North Hudson. The proposed ordinance 9-23 is the next step in establishing new rules on the classification of customers and establishing rates for all customers served by Hudson Water Utility. So we had to update our ordinances in order to include the wholesale and the different classifications of customers. So you do have in your packet kind of the red line of what's been taken out, what's been put back in. We've gone through this with our attorney numerous times, back and forth. I know Nick has reviewed it, things like that. So we are looking for adoption of ordinance 9-23.
Move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to suspend the rules. Roll call?
Morissette?
Yes.
Wakefield?
Yes.
Knudsen?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Motion's approved. Rules are suspended.
Move to approve ordinance 9-23.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion?
I've got a question. So, all right, so because there's still a current contract, this really doesn't take effect. I mean, it takes effect immediately or as soon as the process is done, but it's really not effective for the North Hudson people until January 1st because they're still under the old contract.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And if you remember when we did all this back originally, when we started this process, we said we wanted to get to North Hudson by July, which we're pretty close, everything that we're doing. So they have plenty of time to look at it, ask questions, make requests, do whatever it is they want to do, so we don't do this in November. And then they're scrambling in 1 month to try to figure this out. We gave proper notice about the termination. We're trying to give it about 6 months' notice. Here's what we're adopting, take a look, figure out what it means, that sort of thing. So there's, that's why we're trying to get this approved now, so there's plenty of time for that to kind of work through before January, when it goes into effect for them.
Will the residents of North Hudson still get the fourth quarter bill?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
So the bill that they receive in January would be, they'll still get a bill from us because we still have to bill for water at this point.
Yep.
But the North Hudson, there won't be any wastewater charges on their bill, starting January 1st. But their fourth quarter bill that they'll receive in January will include just as is today.
Okay.
Water, wastewater, storm, everything. Nothing will change. And then January 1st is when we kind of push the reset button, and that's when everything starts again. So their first quarter bill in April, when they receive it in April, will only have the water on it.
Okay.
And possibly storm. I'm not sure what's happening with that yet, so. But there will be no wastewater on that bill. And then we will generate one bill based off of that master meter that will go directly to the village of North Hudson for payment.
And so North Hudson will pay our city on a quarterly basis
Correct.
as well then?
Yes.
All right, everybody got it? There was a motion, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
Tie worked.
Thanks, Kip.
The timer.
Yeah, nice. All right, for me, I just want to acknowledge, congratulate, and celebrate the 60th anniversary for the Carmelite nuns and the work that they've done for our community in serving our community for the past 60 years by providing spiritual and charitable work for all of the citizens of Hudson. And over that 60-year period, they have woven their way into the fabric of our community and have done a great job. So I just wanted to once again congratulate and acknowledge the 60 years that they've served our Hudson community.
And I'd just like to thank the park board for that back mural.
Yeah.
It looks very nice.
We're gonna frame it up. It's up now. We got some finalizing work to do on it, but yeah, it does look really good. Looks good in the Zoom too.
And
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
particular thanks to Mike Kennedy, because I know he spearheaded some of the effort. So acknowledge
you.
that and thank you. It does look nice. I like
Yeah,
it.
Thank you. Looks great.
First time seeing that.
Anybody else?
Move to adjourn?
Second.
We have a motion second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. We stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.